It's almost 2 a.m. in Newark, New Jersey. Frank gets out of bed and heads to the bathroom. On his way back, he decides to sit on the porch and smoke a cigarette. Apart from the sounds of insects, the neighborhood is in complete silence. But not for long. Out of nowhere, he hears footsteps in his driveway where his 2021 Hellcat is parked. As he gets up to check, the car door opens, the engine starts, and in a matter of seconds, Frank's Hellcat disappears right in front of his eyes. The car passes by not one, but two police patrol cars. In just a couple of minutes, the car's GPS tracker gets deactivated. Frank's Hellcat is officially a subject of the past. But Frank isn't the only victim. On average, every 36 seconds, a car gets stolen in the United States.
Police say looking for the key fob to this Range Rover.
Two people were killed after getting hit by a stolen car.
Car theft around here has been an issue.
With only half of the stolen cars recovered, auto theft has become a billion-dollar industry. Even with multiple police operations, the numbers are still at an all-time high, reaching 900,000 car theft incidents. From underground drifting events, corrupt officials, to dark web kingpins, these criminal operations are far more sophisticated than one could imagine. How does a 2-ton object completely disappear from existence? How do car thieves choose their targets? And who are the top dogs pulling the strings behind the scenes? Over the last 20 years, the underground car scene in America has become more popular than ever. With the exponential rise of social media content revolving around late-night car meetups, underground drifting events, and street races, this lifestyle has gone mainstream. Hollywood has also played a huge role in promoting this niche of car culture. These car events are the real-life version of the Fast and Furious. The popularity of this underground car culture has exploded with the success of the franchise. But what we see of these late-night events on social media, or even in broad daylight, isn't just a bunch of youngsters flexing their drifting skills. These underground car events are the perfect marketplace for stolen vehicles. And just like any other market, you'll find sellers, buyers, and facilitators. One of those facilitators is the tow truck driver. One of the oldest, unsophisticated, yet popular ways to steal cars is the old tow and go. Usually, the tow truck driver targets cars in calm neighborhoods to avoid any witnesses who might jeopardize the operation. In most cases, the driver visits the neighborhood beforehand, familiarizing himself with the getaway routes, the owner's patterns, as well as police patrol cars. Once the scene is clear, the whole thing only takes a few seconds. The tow truck driver would then head out to a dedicated chop shop where the stolen car gets broken down into parts, making it almost impossible to trace. Many of the car thief gangs work this way. Others are a little more greedy because the thieves who make the big money must take bigger risks, selling the whole car intact. But these gangs are smart to minimize the risk of getting caught. They don't sell them in the US. They take their business overseas. Over the last few years, police investigations have discovered a sophisticated underground supply chain of stolen cars dominating many cities around the US. Vehicles of all kinds getting shipped overseas. That's the most lucrative smuggling route in the game. But shipping a 2-ton object from a US port isn't an easy task. That's why these car thieves have developed complex methods to keep their business running to this day. One of the biggest car theft rings in the US is in Newark, New Jersey. For a long time, the city gained the reputation of being the stolen car capital in America.
Here in Jersey, there were more than 15,000 vehicles reported stolen, an increase compared to the same time in 2021.
A few years back, throughout a 2-year operation called Operation Jack, authorities managed to recover hundreds of stolen vehicles valued at $8 million and convicted more than 50 car ring members. That restored some sense of safety to the local community, but it wasn't enough. What the police revealed was only the tip of the iceberg. The big players are still in the game. Just like any other gang, these car theft rings function in a hierarchy. Surprisingly, the actual car thieves are at the bottom of the chain. They're paid to pinpoint and steal cars, allowing them to get a good chunk of cash out of every stolen car. But how do these thieves actually do it? Before cars became computers on wheels, there was a simple, straightforward process to steal a car. With older cars, thieves use a device called a turbo decoder. It goes inside the keyhole, they spin it around a few times, and in a few seconds, it gives them the profiles of the key. The thieves would then use the help of a corrupt locksmith, get a second key, and go back to steal the car when the opportunity presents itself. Today, car theft prevention technology has evolved, but so did car thieves. Nowadays, electronic car keys are the norm. For this new age of car thieves, that's not a problem. All they need is either the car's registration information or a savvy, corrupt mechanic. What they look for is the VIN of the vehicle. The next step would be generating a key code using just the VIN, along with a PIN code that allows them to access the vehicle's OBD port, where they can communicate and change the car's settings. The scary part is that all of this information could be found on regular database websites that locksmiths use. Once the thieves have that key code, all they have to do is type it in their locksmith machine and immediately get a key that opens the car. Once inside the car, the thief plugs in a device into the OBD port, deactivates the alarm in 5 to 10 seconds, programs a new key, starts the car, and drives off. What seems to be a long process is generally done by these thieves in less than 20 seconds. What makes the process fast and efficient is the complementary roles the theft crew has. Behind the scenes, you have the locksmith and the mechanic. On the ground, there's the main thief, along with multiple spotters who stay in tinted cars, keeping an eye out and covering up the blocks ahead. Their favorite cars to steal are Range Rovers, BMWs, Fords, and Benzes. They're both in demand and easier to steal. After splitting profits, each member makes thousands of dollars for each stolen vehicle. But these crews are not the ones making the most money. They're actually at the bottom of the pyramid. Once they steal a car, they rush to get rid of it as soon as possible. But how and to whom? Cars are different from other stealable items like jewelry or cash. To sell a stolen car, there's laundry work to be done. This takes us to the next stone of the pyramid, what they call the fence. The fence is the key middleman in the operation. It's his job to handle the logistics of laundering a stolen car, to disguise the fact that it's stolen. The first step in the car laundering process is disabling LoJacks on cars so police won't be able to track it. Right after, the fence assigns someone to change the vehicle's identification number. Once the VIN is modified, the fence assigns another person to forge new title and registration documents to match the new VIN. And just like that, another stolen car rolls out as completely new. A car laundering operation like this costs the fence around $10,000, $3 to $4 grand for the car key, $2 grand for the VIN forger, $1 grand for the GPS disabler, and a couple grand for each operator on the ground. Despite all these expenses, the fence usually operates on 60 to 70% margins. For him, a car like a new Range Rover can make him over $10,000 after all the people involved are paid. The biggest fences in the game do this operation multiple times per week, allowing them to bank millions per year. But even with those numbers, the fence is still not the biggest player in the chain. The stolen car transfers hands to the final player on the US side of the network. This is the last and the most dangerous part of the fence's job, delivering the stolen vehicle to the shippers. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection's main focus is preventing contraband from entering U.S. soil, not heading outbound, which makes it almost impossible to detect all the stolen cars being exported overseas. In Newark's port, authorities admitted to only being able to inspect a small fraction of containers leaving the United States. The perfect news for car theft rings in the area. Thousands of containers full of brand new stolen cars every week. Once vessels depart for international waters, the chances of recovering a stolen vehicle are slim to none. 400,000 cars every year are exported from Newark's port. That's over 30,000 cars every month. In 2023, out of all those cars, only 310 were detected. For authorities to find the stolen ones out of thousands of containers is like finding a needle in a haystack. From the time the car gets stolen to it being shipped usually takes no more than a few hours, making the authorities' job even harder. At this level of the operation, shippers are the ones who make the most money, but they're still not on top of the food chain. At this point, the real question is, who's making the most money and who's on top of the pyramid? One of the most popular destinations for stolen cars shipped from the East Coast is 5,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean, West Africa. In most countries, owning a car could be considered a luxury. Nowhere is that more evident in Ghana. In its muddy streets, you can feel the hunger for financial success. In a country with such a growing economy, money is circulating. And when money is present, people tend to want to own stuff. The first success symbol that comes to mind for most people is a nice car. In Ghana, rising incomes have opened the door to new black markets like stolen cars. The number one imported item in Ghana is cars, and the number one car seller is a crime group called the Fraud Boys, operating out of a remote neighborhood kilometers away from the capital. The Fraud Boys operate in a wide range of illegal activities: credit card and identity theft, blackmail, crypto scams, and the list goes on. All of their business is held on underground hacking forums on the dark web. Within these forums, the Fraud Boys have US-based accomplices who take care of the car stealing part of the operation. With a stolen credit card and a fake ID, these guys can walk into any car rental location in the US and drive off with a car that will wind up 5,000 miles across the Atlantic on the streets of Ghana. The buying and selling takes place on the dark web, payment in crypto, and everyone stays anonymous. With hundreds of cars sold every year, you may think these guys make the big bucks from selling stolen vehicles, but in reality, they make the majority of their money from something else. Import duties can cost up to 20% of the market value of a car. In other words, on a $100,000 car, 20 grand is gone in taxes. That's where the Fraud Boys' hacking skills come to play. They hack into the customs service at the harbor and make it seem like the import fees on a car have already been made. And of course, they don't do this for free. The Fraud Boys are not just buyers and sellers, they're the masterminds of the whole operation and have found willing American criminals to do their dirty work on the ground. Sitting on the top of the pyramid is the leader of the Fraud Boys, the kingpin that even locals stay unaware of his true identity. As long as the demand is there on the other side of the Atlantic, the auto theft industry will continue to thrive. Subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.